It's a dark day in America when we allow narrow-minded, partisan politics to be used to vilify a legitimate military action that will save American lives, as well as innocent lives all over the world. Last week, our president took action to protect and defend America, and frankly the world, by taking down Qasem Soleimani, who has been an architect of terror in the Middle East for decades and responsible for the deaths of hundreds of Americans and countless others. This terrorist regime in Iran has been provoking and attacking America through proxies for years. They supplied the lethal IED technology that has taken the lives of hundreds of American troops and maimed and dismembered thousands more during the Iraq War. As my colleague and friend from Indiana, Representative Jim Banks, recently said, if you see an Iraq War veteran with an artificial limb, there's a pretty good chance that Soleimani and his Quds force can take credit for that maiming. Having just ordered the murder of an American contractor and orchestrating the attack on our embassy in Iraq, Soleimani was caught in the act in Iraq of planning future attacks to kill countless more Americans throughout the region before President Trump terminated him. So unlike President Obama, who signed a treaty which was never congressionally approved, guaranteeing nuclear weapons in Iran and directly funding Iranian terrorism to the tune of $1.5 billion in cash, Trump made the right call to protect our nation from a real and increasing threat. Even President Obama's former Department of Homeland Security Secretary, Jay Johnson, has stated that killing Soleimani was a lawful military objective. Are we too quick to forget that the Iranian regime has been virtually left unaccountable for their terrorist actions going back 4 decades, 1979, when they seized United States Embassy diplomats and held them hostage for 444 days? And then again in 1983, the U.S. Marine barracks bombing in Beirut, which killed 241 U.S. Marines. I could pull from countless examples, but more recently, the seizing of U.S. Navy sailors in 2016, the shooting down of the U.S. drone last year. Maybe if we had taken swift action like this in the past, we could have prevented Iran's support for the deadly civil wars in Syria and Yemen and their unprovoked attacks on international shipping in the Straits of Hormuz and Saudi Arabia and their oil fields. My point being that instead of applauding a decision that forever rids the world of a sinister murderer, Speaker Nancy Pelosi and my Democrat colleagues, once again, willfully blind themselves and their political base with partisan politics, calling the strike a needless provocation. Curiously, I don't remember this level of condemnation from either side of the aisle when President Obama relayed to the nation and the world that the terrorist leader Osama bin Laden was dead. In fact, Republicans applauded him for that. However, it seems the Democrat Party now would rather side with a recognized terrorist who's committed unthinkable atrocities than to support the President of the United States. My colleagues on the left have allowed their disdain for this president to preclude any kind of positive response to any decision that he makes. And that sort of obstruction is truly what is hurting our country the very most. As elected officials, regardless of political party, we don't have a more important duty than that of protecting America and its citizens. And I'm proud to stand with President Trump in that effort. With last week's actions, he has shown every terrorist organization around the world that violence against the United States and her allies will have serious consequences. Yesterday, Iran continued to play with fire by launching over a dozen ballistic missiles at Iraqi bases where Americans are serving. Fortunately, the attack had little to no effect and caused 0 American casualties. President Trump has shown great restraint in responding to this aggression. He doesn't mean war, but he does mean business. And as he told the nation today, for far too long, nations have tolerated Iran's destructive and destabilizing behavior in the Middle East and beyond. Those days are over. I could not agree more with our president. No one wants war. And as the father of a decorated Navy SEAL who served in Iraq, No one knows the burden of sending their loved ones to fight any better than his mother and me and families like ours. But we must continue to stand against this terrorist regime, and we can especially, under no circumstances, ever allow for a nuclear-armed Iran. Thank you, and may God bless you and America.